How's that, Paul?
Yeah, I think we should go.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today to hear about bicycle and pedestrian initiatives and happenings that are going on in the Old Colony Planning Council region and being a part of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting today. So just to give you a background of who the Old Colony Planning Council is for those who maybe first time joining us or those who have limited engagement with us, is that we are a government agency that leads transportation planning studies, lead in elder services, comprehensive local and regional planning. We're comprised of 17 communities. OCPC also staffs the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO for short. We also function as the AAA, or the Area Council on Aging, and we manage the Community Septic Management Program and also do economic development. We're an economic development district in the region. So here are some Title VI notices of non-discriminatory rights and protections to beneficiaries. If you need more information or need to file a complaint or some other action, you can reach Title VI specialists at these two contacts, either at OCPC or through MassDOT. And then we'll go ahead and our presentation. So the agenda today, we're going to cover the purpose of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We're going to talk about some Commonwealth-wide bicycle and pedestrian initiatives. Then we'll talk about MassDOT's Shared Streets and Spaces program and funding, and those who were awarded monies in our region. Then we'll talk about Brockton's Main Street Corridor study and proposed recommended improvements in regards to bike and pedestrian. And then we'll talk about the upcoming Old Colony Active Transportation Study, and then we'll open it up to further discussion and potential timing of next meeting. So the purpose of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is really to provide a forum for local officials, state officials, and members of the public to discuss more acutely bicycle and pedestrian issues. We have other committees such as the Joint Transportation Committee, which focuses on this, and then big picture stuff, other infrastructure issues such as roads and transit. And we wanted to have this smaller, more poignant committee to really focus on the issues that pedestrians and cyclists face, because sometimes these initiatives tend to get lost in the grander, big infrastructure projects that may be talked about during the Joint Transportation Committee or the MPO, because a lot of those projects that we speak about there are really big dollar items, and not necessarily that bike and pedestrian issues are as voluminous in cost compared to those. So sometimes they tend to get a little overlooked, or they're part of the greater project that we may be talking about, but we might not necessarily hit on when we discuss them. And then we also want to give a forum for people to discuss how we might move bicycle and pedestrian initiatives within the Old Colony region forward to making it a more bicycle and pedestrian friendly place for not only recreational purposes, but for utility purposes as well. And then we'll look at how we might come together further in order to build momentum and start moving that ball forward in regards to making the region more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. So today I wanted to talk about some Commonwealth initiatives. We should have somebody from the state on. Looks like our MassDOT partner might not be here. So just to touch about some Commonwealth and bicycle pedestrian initiatives going on across the Commonwealth. There's a number of things going on in regards to bicycle and pedestrian initiatives within the area and throughout the Commonwealth. As you know, a while back we had, it looks like we might have somebody from MassDOT raising their hand.
Barbara LaChance from the district's on.
Okay. So I see
Oh,
somebody from,
yeah.
hello.
Pete Sutton's also here.
Oh, hey, Pete. Didn't see your name there.
Yeah, I don't know why. For some reason, I am logged in, but I don't see any of the other participants.
Oh, one of those the Zoom snafus, as they say. So I just made you a panelist, and if you would like, you can start sharing your screen.
So if you click on participants, the list should come up and there's a toggle between panelists and attendees.
Mm-hmm.
So if you click on attendees, that lists all those that aren't the panelists.
Yep.
So, Pete, this is Jimmy Perry. I renamed Mass Planning to Pete Sutton, so make sure everyone knows.
I'm sorry, I was on mute, and you should be able to see me now. And can you see my screen now as well?
Yes.
Okay. Then I will get started. Hey, it's good to see everyone. Bill, Charlie, Jimmy, and I don't think I've met the woman in the lower right.
That's Mary Walden, our
I'm
executive
Mary.
director.
I replaced Pat Chimella as the executive director, but thank you for being on with us.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Pleasure meeting you too.
If only virtually. So yeah, I want to thank Paul for inviting me in, wanting to talk about some statewide initiatives that MassDOT is working on that could easily be applied to the Old Colony region. I don't know if, hold on, let me minimize mine. Some photos just from around the Southeast Massachusetts. That's a brand new one in the top left-hand corner of the Shared Streets and Spaces program in downtown Plymouth that they've started implementing. It actually looks like they put in a pop-up bike lane there too, right there on Middle Street. In neighboring Franklin, that's the latest stretch of the Southern New England Trunkline Trail that's nearing completion. Anyone familiar with the lower right-hand photo of what that is? I kind of stumbled upon it when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. That is a fence on the Mattapoisett Rail Trail, and that is because it is directly up against a driving range. And I think it's the first trail I've ever seen where they had to put some anti-shielding fencing just so people aren't getting hit with golf balls. But you know, great. I'm glad it's there. And the final picture is me also on vacation on the Cape Cod Rail Trail, enjoying a nice hot chocolate sparrow. You got to stop there in Orleans whenever you're there. So, and tons of use, not surprisingly, just because it was summer and just because so many more people are biking and walking today. So let me advance. I'm going to talk about a few things, some COVID-19 stats regarding bicycle and pedestrian travel patterns, the bike and pedestrian plan implementation updates since the plans got released last year. We've been working on some things to further the initiatives along, some upcoming bike and ped projects and funding opportunities that I can alert everyone to, and also the Moving Together conference, which I know most of you attend every year. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, it will be virtual, but we are still going ahead with it just because there's so much great stuff that is happening this year, despite the fact that most of us are working from home. We're going to make the most of it. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So first, COVID stats. We're currently using streetlight data and Blue Bikes data to report on bicycle and pedestrian activity during COVID-19. And the data is available on MassDOT's mobility dashboard. I'll send this presentation in a PDF, and you can, all these links will be active. So if you want to check out the data yourself, you'll be able to do that. Here's a change in bicycle activity by municipality comparing last April of 2019 to 2020. As you can see, overall, Massachusetts saw an increase in bicycle activity across the state, with noticeable decreases in areas where bicycling was likely used for commuting or on college campuses. You can see the entire city of Boston is in red. That is due to the fact that most people are not commuting into the office over the past spring, and we're working from home, so the bike ridership plummeted. I know that I am among that statistics. I've been here working from home, as has everyone from MassDOT since March, and this stat is not surprising. What is surprising, though, is that because people are working from home, they're itching to get out and to cycle more for recreation. So additionally, statewide average trip lengths have increased from 2.7 to 3.3 miles, and the average bicycle trip duration has increased from 24 to 28 minutes. Trip circuity, which is a measure of non-directness, also increased by 175% statewide, meaning that more bicycle trips may have taken less direct paths or started and ended at closer locations. People leaving their homes and going out on trails or bike-friendly streets and then looping back. So some interesting data there. Also going to change in pedestrian activity by municipality as well. Pretty much the same things we're seeing city of Boston, but the other outlier is right in Western Massachusetts in red. That's the town of Amherst, where UMass's main campus is, not surprisingly, when they all got sent home in March, walking pedestrian counts plummeted there too, just because so many people, I think it's 30,000 undergrad students, most of them walking all around, not driving. So that is, again, not surprising. It increased 112% statewide. Those are all the towns in green that have showed an increase, meaning that more pedestrian trips may have taken less direct paths or started and ended at closer locations, similar to the bike data.
Looks like we might have lost Pete there. So we'll wait for Pete to come back online, and we'll continue our presentation.
And Jimmy and Paul, I think what you're doing right now is you're making everybody a panelist so then they can see each other. Am I correct?
Correct, Mary, yes. Thank you.
So while we wait for Pete Sutton to come back on, we'll talk about the Shared Streets and Spaces program. So the Shared Street Spaces program is a small, large grant program to communities to quickly implement and expand improvements to sidewalks, curbs, streets, on-street parking spaces, as well as off-street parking to support greater public health, mobility, and a renewed commerce in these communities, especially in the time of COVID. And this is the genesis of this program. Just in our region alone, the town of Plymouth received just over $172,000 to temporarily convert parking spaces in a travel lane into shared space. And this is a photo of that temporary design element right there that was provided by their town planner, Mr. Lee Hartman, and in promoting that shared use of space so that commercial establishments such as restaurants can have outdoor dining, continue to serve members of the public, and to also facilitate greater space in the roadway for those who are biking and walking to maintain that social distance factor. And so this has been a really good program. Hey, Pete, we'll give it back to you.
Okay, so I don't know what happened. The connection completely just got lost, but fortunately I am back.
Okay. So I'll let you go ahead and take control of the presentation again.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Can you see the screen again?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I was just wrapping up the bike counts. We also had data from the Blue Bikes bike share in and around Boston, Cambridge, Brookline, Somerville, and I'll just go quickly through these. The daily use between last year and this year, and you can see this year is in blue, last year is in red, where it was just a steady uptick through the spring, all through the summer. Not so much for 2020, where beginning in March and April, it just completely troughed. As not surprisingly, people stopped commuting into work. But an interesting has happened as we've gone into the summer, those numbers in the blue have risen steadily. And to the point where 2 weeks ago, Blue Bikes experienced their highest daily use ever. I think 14,000 bike trips were taken in and around the Boston region in one day on a Sunday, where it was warm, sunny, like 75 degrees. And, you know, people were just itching to get out and enjoy the summer weather. So I'm glad that, that the bike share trips have rebounded quite nicely. And I expect that number is going to grow just because the Blue Bikes is continuing to grow their network. Just in the past couple weeks, 5 new communities have joined: Chelsea, Revere, Arlington, Watertown, and Newton. So expect to see even more bike use from there. I was mentioning some of the things from the bike and ped plans that were released last year. A couple of the initiatives that we're working on very hard are bicycle and pedestrian count programs in coordinations with MassDOT divisions, Mass Trails, regional planning agencies such as Old Colony, MPO, various municipalities, advocacy and community groups, and nonprofits. We're really looking to institutionalize our bicycle and pedestrian counts across the state. It's something that now with digital technology, we're able to do and where we could not before. A lot of it is due to platforms like Streetlight Data, which is a cloud-based interactive platform for measuring transportation activity. What it basically does is take anonymous cell phone data and tracks people on bikes and walking all across the state. That's how we got that data in the previous couple slides for bicycle and pedestrian usage. It's similar to Travel Trip app duration estimates. It helps create total traffic volumes by amalgamating more count data, makes it more accurate. So we're in the process of rolling out 15 permanent counter locations based on high bicycle and pedestrian activity analysis, geographic and community type diversity, MassDOT-owned roads, and environmental justice communities. And I'm happy to say that we're looking to roll one out in downtown Brockton, right on Center and Lyman Streets, because that's been identified as an area of heavy bicycle and pedestrian use. And we want to confirm that so we can actually recommend putting in more and better bike and pedestrian infrastructure, which I'll touch upon in a couple slides down. We have the money from the bicycle and pedestrian plans to allocate to it, and the testing dashboard and interactive web maps are a great help. We're also working on performance measures and equity checks, a big part of both plans. We're measuring performance. It's great to have a strategic plan, but unless you have things in place to measure what you're actually putting forward, it can become very difficult to justify future funding. We've also attached equity checks identifying any disparities that affect minority populations, women, low-income populations, limited English proficiency, persons with disabilities and/or people under 18 and over the age of 65. All of those have been baked in to our performance measures, and we're working through those. Some of our goals as far as performance measures for network quality and access, some examples: what percentage of short trips made in Massachusetts could be made on bicycle or pedestrian networks. As far as mode share, what percentage of short trips made in Massachusetts are being made on the bicycle and pedestrian networks, and safety as well. What is the rate of serious injuries and fatalities for cyclists and pedestrians? These are some of the basic things that we're measuring. We're still looking to accumulate even more data so we can have more robust performance measures, but it is a long-term plan in gathering that data. We're looking at 5 years before we achieve everything that we want to achieve. Our approach is creating measures that tell us how much bike and pedestrian infrastructure exists in the state, contextualizing that info, focusing on non-interstate and limited access roads, mostly MassDOT arterial roads under its jurisdiction, again, incorporating equity, using the MassDOT road inventory, our bicycle facility inventory that we're updating constantly. I just updated another, I think, 200 records throughout the state just in 6 months. It's pretty incredible that we're adding that much infrastructure all over the place. And the results will end up in MassDOT's annual performance report tracker, which comes out at the end of December. So we'll have some hard numbers to actually point to from both plans in there. I was going to talk about some funding opportunities. Paul was talking about the MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces program. As you guys know, Plymouth was a big recipient of that. I showed the picture. Paul was also talking about it. Today is the last day for it. Applications are being accepted through September 22nd, and everything has to be almost near completely implemented by October 9th. It's been a huge success. MassDOT increased the funding from 5 to 10 million with the help from the governor's office. They realized how valuable a program it was to, increase on-street spaces for outdoor dining, access to school, biking and walking, social distancing. Also, the MassDOT's Complete Streets program, we've extended as well through October 1st. Tier 2 prioritization plans will continue, and Tier 3 project approvals deadline have been extended from October 1st to November 2nd. So another round is upon us, and we're about to announce recipients from the latest round. Can't make anything official yet, but I was on the scoring committee, and I know that I think both Bridgewater and Mansfield had very impressive projects as far as regional communities go. As far as the MassDOT project spotlight goes, there's a couple right in the downtown Brockton area that scored highly in both bicycle and pedestrian plans. That you guys probably know about by now, on Route 123, Center Street, going all the way out towards the Walmart in Abington. This is a corridor that is seriously lacking in any kind of bicycle, pedestrian, and bus stop infrastructure. I think when I was out there recently, the entrance to the Walmart off of 123 didn't even have pedestrian signals or a sidewalk on the Walmart side. So we're looking to make those improvements in addition to adding bike lanes there too. We're also doing it at the micro level right in downtown Brockton on Center Street with Cary and Lyman Street, and that add date is going to be 2022, so not that far away really when you think about it. That's also going to be the location, hopefully, of our bicycle counter. Last thing I'll talk about is the Moving Together conference this year. Rather than having it one entire day and just totally burning people out on the computer screens, we decided to make it spread out over 3 mornings, just because I think people are more attuned to things. They're a little bit more sharp in the morning. So we're going to be having the same format of conferences, 4 different panels, ongoing at the same time. And we're actually also going to include virtual site visits this year as part of each panel over the 3 days. We'll have morning keynote addresses, a closing keynote address around noontime for each day. You can expect to see Secretary Pollock, Administrator Gulliver. One of the positives about actually doing things online is that we can kind of cast our nets further afield. I'm looking to get some national involvement at Moving Together this year, reaching out to other DOTs like Washington State and Oregon, perhaps. Also some national advocacy groups like League of American Bicyclists, Rails to Trails Conservancy, East Coast Greenway, the Pedestrian and Bicycle Information Council out of North Carolina. These are all people that we would normally have to pay for their airfare to come and have them speak. So the fact that it's virtual means that people are a lot more available, and it should be great having a national perspective on a lot of these things that we're working on in MassDOT. The program tracks this year that every block of sessions will feature at least one of these: COVID responses, equity measures, and planning for a lasting shift. That's one thing that MassDOT is very keen on, especially with the Shared Streets and Spaces program. We're looking to see some of these things implemented on a permanent basis now, and hopefully with the success of it, that will happen. Here's a list of confirmed sessions, a lot of stuff that we normally run every year as far as design guidance, innovative outreach through public engagement, measuring equity, excuse me, bus network redesign, improving transit, biking, and walking, project spotlights, which we do every year. We're also going to have something, regional connectivity through southeastern Mass. I think we're going to focus on the South Coast region this year, around Fall River, New Bedford. I know that Serped is working on the South Coast Bikeway route through there. Also, MassDOT initiatives will include a roundabout design guide, a bike wayfinding planning and design guide, which should be released by the time of the conference. We're also going to be talking about speed and its impacts on safety for biking and walking. The city of Boston has done a ton of stuff this year, implementing separated bike lanes all around the city. We're going to highlight some of that. Also, we're going to have a MAPHAB panel. That's the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board, of which Paul Chenard is a member. He's also going to most likely take part in the panel. So again, a lot happening. Oh, and I forgot to mention the best part, because it's virtual this year, it's going to be free. And I think, we're trying to make the most of the situation. Nobody loves putting on the conference more than I do. Last year, we had almost 1,000 attendees at the Park Plaza Hotel, and I will really be missing that this year. Just the energy that comes from being able to see all your friends and colleagues and network. And Park Plaza always does a great job with catering, the lunch, and the after party. So like I said, content-wise, we're always where we were. It's just unfortunately for the time being, it has to be on the virtual format, but everyone is doing it. And like I said, we're trying to mitigate the attention factor by spreading it out over 3 days. So you can attend a session one morning, attend a couple sessions the next day, maybe one the following, without getting overtired. Here's my contact info. Most of you have it. Be happy to answer any questions. I know I've gone through a lot of info. And like I said, I'll send a PDF of this with all the live links so you can check out this information firsthand.
Thanks, Pete. I was happy to hear you mentioned the Walmart in Abington. I know over the past decade or so, we've had unfortunately, a couple of fatal pedestrian-related crashes there. People, I think in both cases, elderly persons walking to the Walmart. People driving on 123 there tend to build up some pretty good speed once they leave Brockton and basically down to Groveland Street in Abington. So I was really glad to hear you mention that.
Yeah, that was one of the projects that jumped out at us. It checked all the boxes when we were rolling out initial projects last year when we released the bike and ped plans. You know, like you said, using crash data, using environmental justice community data. Not to mention the fact that there's very little infrastructure on that roadway to begin with, and it definitely could use a full top down complete streets approach to it. So happy that that's happening.
Anyone else have any other questions for Pete?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Ray.
Yep. Do you have any like online central database for bicycle and pedestrian counts like Mass DOT has for crashes, or are you planning on anything like that? Or maybe there's something that I don't know about that exists. Because I know you're doing a lot of bicycle counts now, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, like our traffic counts. Eventually, we want to roll this out and have it public facing for everybody. In the meantime, though, what little we have so far is on the MassDOT Mobility Hub website with that link that I put in the presentation. So I'll send it out later on, and you can see for yourself. But yeah, it is our intent to make it as robust as possible and to have as many stakeholders across the region and state use it for their planning purposes as well. We want to make this, all inclusive.
Great, thanks.
I have another question, Pete. Is there? I know the state is wrapping up the Shared Streets and Spaces program. Have you heard of any back channel discussion if it might come back next spring or something like that?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it all depends on where we are as far as COVID goes, whether or not restrictions have been eased any, whether or not we're back to normal. Your guess is as good as mine. It's something that, everyone is looking towards hopefully a vaccine. We just don't know, but it's certainly, in the back of our minds that this could come back in the springtime, definitely.
Okay.
Paul, thanks
I know
for
part of
asking
the. Go ahead.
Oh, Paul, I was just going to say thanks for asking my question.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad I can help. I have one last question, Pete. I know part of the requirements of the program is to track data, kind of like a before and after of the success of the temporary treatment. From what you've seen so far, have a lot of these programs been overwhelming successes, both on just the utilization and also on the economic driver that they were supposed to spur?
I think that is the case. I mean, I think almost everyone who is deployed at their programs and projects in their respective towns have definitely seen a benefit. People are walking more, biking more, where they put in extra space for that. As far as outdoor dining goes, that obvious. I've been utilizing that all over the place where I live in Somerville. Really happy that extra space has been devoted to outdoor dining and just recreation. I think it's pretty much been an overwhelming success. I mean, to the point where it was originally only supposed to be $5 million and that got doubled to 10 million just because of the overwhelming demand.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I've ridden in a lot of the shared spaces within the core cities, and while riding, I've stopped by in many cafes and spent my money there. So it's definitely, in my personal experience, an economic driver for sure, because I probably might not have stopped had I not had that extra infrastructure there.
And I think you're seeing a lot of people's eyes open to the possibilities of what could happen when you devote extra space to bicyclists, pedestrians, and leisure activity. I think people are saying, this could work permanently. Really, what's lost is a few parking spaces here and there. And even though it takes an initial adjustment, I think in the long term, it's really beneficial.
Yeah, and I can't recall hearing an outcry from anyone where these temporary designs have gone in, of backing up traffic or causing any other externalities as well, just
Yeah.
positives.
My colleague at MassDOT, John Alessi, who is working as an assistant in the Sustainable Mobility Office, is also on this meeting, and he just put a message in the chat room that MassDOT's working to store all historical bike and ped counts. This will be available in a web map later this fall on the MassDOT Mobility Hub website. So we'll definitely get the word out when that appears. Thanks, John.
Pete, the question before that from Lisa mentioned if there would be another round. Did you answer that? Just curious for the shared space grant.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it's all contingent upon, you know, where we are with COVID and vaccine come in the springtime. If we're still status quo like we are now, I could see it very likely that we would relaunch it again. But who knows? A lot can happen in 6 and 7 months.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pete. I really appreciate this. A lot of good information, a lot of good initiatives being put forth by the state, and it's nice to have a partner in MassDOT and you and all that you do and your team in promoting better biking and walking throughout the region and throughout the state. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So moving on, everyone, just to kind of tie up loose ends on the Shared Streets and Spaces program. As Pete said, that funding program is coming to an end, but we've had success in regards in our region of acquiring some monies in order to promote shared spaces with the grant received by the town of Plymouth. And what they used that for was to install temporary curb ramps, planters, a buffered bike lane, and implement wider sidewalks and better pedestrian crossings. So that's really nice. And as you can see from the photo there, I mean, it's just such a beautiful downtown to be in and to walk and bike in. I've walked and biked it many times myself. It's great. So next, I want to talk about a very local initiative. Anyone that knows me knows I'm very pro Brockton and I love the city. And I want to highlight a project that one of my coworkers, Ray Guarino, has been the project manager on, and I participated on a little bit, and which is the Main Street Corridor Study. And today we're going to just focus on the bicycle and pedestrian recommended improvements because the recommendations are far more expansive than just bike and ped, obviously, in regards to the corridor. For those who might not be too familiar with Main Street Brockton, it's quite a long corridor. It's the spine of the city. It's 5.2 miles in length. Part of it is state-owned, most of it's local. And the study was really to look at how the whole corridor can be improved, and particularly how it can be improved for bicycle and pedestrian recommendations, in regards to bicycle and pedestrian recommendations. And there's been a number of key recommendations. Some of those would be to upgrade existing pedestrian infrastructure like pedestrian walking signals. Some locations, there's the old schools, I like to call it, red and yellow pedestrian walk indicator. When I first came to the city of Brockton, I had no clue what that was until somebody at City Hall told me what it was. So that was quite confusing. And I'm sure for those who may not be Massachusetts natives like me, it can be quite confusing as well. So some of the recommendations in there is to upgrade those pedestrian signals and bring them up to what we would recognize universally across the nation. Some other things were to improve better crosswalks, so repainting and restriping these crosswalks. Also, the implementation of, where feasible, protected bike lanes or standard bike lanes, obviously within a contextual eye. So, you know, what may work in one part of the corridor may not be right for a particular more tight and constrained corridor. And also part of the recommendation is to support the recommendations put forth by Rob May and his team in regards to the downtown Brockton two-way study. The graphic you see here is a rendering of potential improvements that could be implemented downtown if the city decides to move forward with that and return Main Street in the downtown area to a two-way traffic flow, what it once used to be, and just seek overall greater bicycle and pedestrian amenities to just promote not only bicycling and walking within the city of Brockton as a recreational thing, but also as a utility as well. So actively using your bike or actively walking for business and work purposes. And part of that would be to beef up the amenities to be found within the city, in particular downtown, in regards to like bike racks and the such. So those are some of the recommended improvements there. For those who wish to know more, we do have a video of the full recommendations that we did as a public participation session on Zoom, so you can watch it off our Facebook and also our YouTube channel, which all can be found on the OCPC website. And then we will, if you have any further questions, you can definitely email me and we'll get back to you with more poignant answers to what you might be looking for. So now I would like to talk about something that's going to be really fun to do this year. The Old Colony Planning Council is going to be updating the Old Colony Active Transportation Plan. So this is our bike and pedestrian plan that we're going to be updating, and really looking at the whole region and seeing how bicycle and pedestrian improvements can be championed and where things should go in regards to the bicycle and pedestrian realm. So we're going to be doing a bunch of intense analysis and looking how we can improve connectivity for those who bike and walk, have an eye towards safety and public health. We're going to look to see how we can increase the utility of walking and bicycling, not just as a recreational endeavor. We're also going to seek to partner with our Commonwealth and local municipal partners to see how biking and walking in their particular communities can be improved, understand what their initiatives are and how we can incorporate to the overall regional plan. And then seeing how we can use existing data and potential future casting to see how we can mold the bike and pedestrian network within our region to be more productive for all. As you can see the map here before you, this was an initiative that was produced out of our last bicycle and pedestrian plan. And what this is a region-wide bike network. So all those little burgundy lines you see are roads you can transverse that are very bikeable. They avoid hills, and you could ride throughout our region. So it's more recreational because it's such a wide thing, but it's definitely something you can do now and something we're looking to promote in the future, and maybe tweak it some more this time around in order to produce a better overall regional bike map, and then have much smaller maps per community that looks at their actual bike and pedestrian network and seeing how it could be improved. So as part of this study, we're going to be reaching out to our local municipal and our state partners, as well as interested individuals who want to be part of our working committees. We haven't had great participation in the past in regards to our bicycle pedestrian committee. So we're going to be using this as a conduit to beef that up, to really bring together a group of individuals and communities in organizations that really want to push forward bicycle and pedestrian initiatives throughout the Old Colony region and really elevate our game, for lack of a better term, in regards to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. We see a lot going on in the South Coast, out there in the New Bedford Fall River area. We all see a lot of activity going on within the 3 core cities there in regards to improving bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. And we can definitely do that here. That's very true. There's a lot of beautiful towns in our region, a lot of beautiful roads that we can walk and bike on, and we should see how we can improve infrastructure so that everyone can enjoy them. So now I would like to open it up to an open forum. Please feel free to talk about maybe things you have coming up in your communities in regards to bicycle infrastructure or pedestrian improvements, projects you may be working on. issues you may be seeing throughout the region in regards to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and issues and connectivity. So please share your thoughts.
This is Pete Sutton. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to start things off. Like I had mentioned in my presentation, great sources of funding are the MassDOT Complete Streets program, and also coming up in November, we're going to have another round of Mass Trails grants, of which municipalities are welcome to apply for. Most of the projects are trail related, a lot of them rail trail conversions. So we encourage that, but by no means limited to that. We also fund bike wayfinding signage, which I think will become more and more prevalent. But I wanted to ask a question of the region. Speaking of rail trails, it's no secret that there are not as many in your region as there are in other parts of the state. And that's largely because most of the rail lines are still active here for commuter rail, the old colony lines. But there are a couple spur lines. One of them, I spent afternoon in West Bridgewater over the summer, and there was about a mile or so of that old rail line. And I did a little bit of research and found out that it originally went all the way to Easton, which is like a good 5 miles away. I mean, that would not be an insignificant trail to develop. And I was just wondering if anyone on the call, if there's any local advocacy work in advancing that. Do people even know about it?
I could add
believe
to that. So we're looking at that, and that's the part of having the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee and looking at local communities and helping local municipalities create their advisory committees as well too, and using this as a platform to help with that formation as well.
I know we do have the planner of the town of Easton on, Stephanie Danielson, if she knows anything or has any information on that in regards to that piece of the rail line in her town.
Might be muted.
Hi, Paul. Actually,
Hey.
I was just getting ready. I was just typing a chat. As Paul just mentioned, I'm the planning director in Easton. I also live in Brockton, and I am familiar with that little 1 mile bike trail. I did not realize that that was part of a train line that went to Easton. So I would be looking, I'm going to explore that. Have you looked at ortho maps to see if there's still some kind of connection? That was I was just going to jump on GIS to see if I could see.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good question, and it points to come November, if there is a good chance, I would suggest applying for a Mass Trails grant for a feasibility study as for that entire corridor. That's exactly what our seed money is meant for.
Oh, okay. Could you state your name again? I'm having for some reason, this Zoom meeting is not playing well with my computer, so I can't see people. I can't see who's talking.
Okay. Yeah, this is Pete Sutton from Mass DOT.
Right.
And I'm also...
I think we've met in the past, maybe at Moving Together.
Yeah, probably. with the 800 people that I meet.
What's your, do you want to just chat me your email address?
Sure.
And number?
Sure.
And I'll get in touch with you. Because,
okay.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to mention is, of course, one of Mass DOT's projects is to resurrect the South Coast Rail, the Stoughton to Fall River line. I know that you're currently working on the Middleborough spur just to expedite that project.
Yeah.
One of the mitigation items that Easton identified was, if that project moves forward, or when it moves forward, is to build a bike path along the line. I would love to see, and we'd be interested maybe in talking about the potential of extending that line. And I know That's part of the MBTA, right? They own that line?
It
the
is, yeah.
right of way?
Correct.
It would be great if, even ahead of that project, that a trail could be developed.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how wide the right of way is, whether or not the MBTA is amenable to a rail with trail in under those circumstances. A lot of people think that the MBTA is totally against rail with trail projects. That's not the case. Like everything, it's context sensitive. It depends on the speeds of the trains. It depends on the use other than trains, if it's used for freight as well. Depends on the right of way, on the width of the corridor. A lot of different factors have to be looked into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm an avid cyclist, and I've ridden on trails where trains, they run alongside active rail lines, rail beds, and had trains go by while you're riding. I have some people say, oh, it's intimidating. Well, you have a fence between you and the train. It's not intimidating.
Yeah, right. And there are several examples where the MBTA has done that successfully. Places in Cambridge, Belmont, Cape Cod, Northampton, all examples that come to mind where there are successful rail with trail projects.
Yeah.
Pete and Stephanie, where does this trail enter Easton? I'm trying to have a hard time.
Well, that's what I don't, are you talking about the West Bridgewater, that old one that Pete was mentioning? I don't know where it does, because what it crosses, so it's off Route 28.
Yeah, you see, this is where MassDOT's geo.website really comes in handy, because we have so many different map layers, and one of them are the old USGS quads from like 50 years ago that show all the rail lines on them, and I use it as a resource all the time. If you want to give me a minute, I can actually bring them up and do a quick screen share, and maybe we can actually locate them if somebody else wants to ask a question.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And are these maps something that the public has access to?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll type in the geo.link here too.
Perfect.
One thing, the active transportation.
In the meantime, Vivian has a question too.
Oh, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vivian Ortiz. I am the Safe Routes to School coordinator, and my colleague Omar is also on the call. We share the OCPC community, but I just wanted to give a quick little update on what it is that we've been doing, at least in the 3 towns that I work with. I have Avon, Stoughton, and Brockton within my territories. Not much activity with Avon, and thanks to Charlie, he's connected me to the engineer that's working on a project at the Wilkins School in Stoughton. So hopefully he and I are going to be able to meet quick soon and kind of get an update on what's going on there. But I really want to just take a little bit more time to talk about what we've been doing in Brockton. Many of the schools in Brockton have been partners with the Safe Routes to School program for some time now. And during this whole time since we've been home, like everyone else since March, our office has been really, really active in trying to get ready for when the school year starts, and things that we could be doing to make sure that the pedestrian and bike safety sessions and things have been going on. So during the summer, I turned to libraries around communities, and we're able to do live in virtual bike safety sessions, because we know that there are so many families that are out walking and biking, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to give some of that education and keep that momentum going, so that when our students do return to school in person, they'll have that confidence and that excitement to continue either walking or biking to school. But one of the things that we found that really helps to make this program sustainable is establishing task forces throughout communities. So this right here is a task force, but mainly we're talking about active transportation as a whole. And there aren't a lot of opportunities where we have that chance to be able to talk about it with our students or about our students and schools. And that's what we do at Safe Routes to School. So I've been working with folks in the public schools in Brockton and looking to see what we can do to have a task force that encompasses parents, folks within the schools, the planners within the community, to help us sit around the table and look at how we can plan, working with the wonderful, great plans that you guys have going on in Brockton to elevate walking and biking to school as just another form of transportation that our students can be using. So I'll probably be reaching out to some of you just to say, hey, you know, we could definitely use your help. But I just wanted you to know that there is activity happening within Safe Routes to School in the communities that we serve. So I don't know, Amart, if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, October 7th is our iWalk, which is one of our annual events. So it's obviously going to be a little different given that we have the quarantine in place and that school districts have chosen hybrid, virtual, or in person. So we're offering like different, you know, marketing materials for schools to, you know, cater their event depending on what your school district shows. You know, so some kids will walk at home, some kids will walk to school. So, you know, we're very flexible with this event this year. So regardless of where you are, you know, just please take a look at our event. I'll post a link in the chat and you can register if you know of any schools that you have students in.
And both to Omar and Vivian, we have, I think I put it in the chat, but we have a weekly newsletter that we're always like having an overflow of information, but we have up to about 500 or so people who get that, receive that. So we can certainly share any and all information, not only today's, the output from today's meeting, but certainly the deadlines and when events are like that are happening. That's just another way. And school department and school committee members and a number of people, and you know, we probably don't have parents, but we'll maybe get some parents to come on. And I know Jimmy Pereira is a parent of 2 children in the school system.
And one other thing I forgot to mention is that we do have promotional items. So sometimes schools request helmets. So if you guys know of any schools that could use some helmets, right now is the time to ask since we have a little surplus going. So, you know, just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, I brought the Geodot screen up. If you want to share with me again, I can do a quick demo. I actually found the right of way.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Hold on a sec.
You should be allowed to share. Yep, there you go.
Okay. So yeah, you go to the mass.geo.com homepage, you click on roadways, and that will bring you to our roadways page with all different kinds of maps here. Road inventory interactive map I use all the time because that's under what jurisdiction various ones are, but the bicycle facility inventory, you just click on that and it brings up the entire statewide, all the bicycle infrastructure. I'll zoom out a little and you can see everything that's existing and planned. We're zoomed in on Easton here. We're using this default layer, but I can go here and pull any of a different number of base maps. And the one that I was referring to were the old USGS topo maps, which are from about 50 years ago. And just like that, boom, there's the old railroad grade that starts all the way here to the main line at Matfield. I think this is the Middleborough Old Colony line and continues west through West Bridgewater. You can follow my arrow, crosses under Route 24. It even is labeled Old Railroad Grade, so obviously has not been used in decades, maybe even longer, and it continues all the way to Easton Station, where the line hopefully will go all the way down to Taunton someday through the Hockomock Swamp. So yeah, a very valuable tool. I use this all the time in planning. And there are all different layers. You have open streets maps, you have terrain, topographic. The default is just the light gray canvas, which shows, as I said, all the different planned is dashed, solid is existing, all the trails, bike lanes are in blue, separated bike lanes are in purple. We're starting to get many, many more of them all around the Boston region. Hopefully we can expand that statewide. So a really nice tool to have. And that's on the Geodot website.
I think there was a question from Rob May because he had a question about getting access, or do you need a login account or anything of that?
No, it's MassDOT's public facing mapping website. And I put the link in the chat screen.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Peter, which layer was it again that you were using that had the,
It's this one, the bicycle facility inventory.
right, I have that, but then once you're up, which was the layer that you added that
Oh,
had?
you go up to this box, which is
Yep.
Base Map Gallery,
Yep.
pull down and go to the very bottom, the USA topo maps.
Okay.
These are the old maps that the U.S. Geographical Survey made, and they are amazing in their detail. The fact that they were all made by hand 50 to 100 years ago, it's pretty remarkable that that for a planning tool, especially, they're great in identifying old right-of-ways, especially railroads and wetlands, that kind of thing. All right, I'll stop sharing and bring it back to Paul to wrap up.
Thank you.
Yep.
So as Pete was mentioning, these old abandoned railways, this is something we'll be definitely looking at in the active transportation plan. During the last one, we identified quite a few and had marked them as potential bicycle and pedestrian corridors. That is something we'll be doing again with this new one. And in one in particular one, with an eye looking to interregional connectivity, is the abandoned rail line. And you saw it for a little bit there when Pete was giving his presentation, but that is a spur off of what would become the South Coast Rail Line, and transverses parts of Stoughton. Would obviously have to cross Route 24 and then goes all the way up to Braintree, where it would connect at the I think it's the Thayer schools, recreational facilities where they have their tennis courts and all that, but the abandoned rail line ends there. And so that's something we'll be exploring as well, is looking to have a connection from the Old Colony region up to the MAPC region to have this inter-regional connection. In the last plan, we had spoken with Serpent, which is our partners down in Taunton, and how we could connect to their region and all their bike facilities. And when you look at our old maps that we had constructed there, when we did our planning for example, like in bike routes, there was a corridor we had selected in order to get individuals that are they're biking from our region into Mansfield to connect to their network there. And so that way you could continue south to the South Coast, potentially, when they get their long Swansea bike path up and running. So there's going to be a lot of great stuff coming up in the active transportation plan. I'm really excited for you guys to participate, and we'll be looking how we can improve biking and walking throughout the region. Does anyone else have anything else they would like to talk about or promote in the open forum?
Well, just one comment that you and I had talked about yesterday, but just really to have everybody who's on this meeting today to encourage others, enthusiasts, to participate. Obviously, not everybody can make a meeting during the daytime. We've talked a little bit about diversifying some of the time frames so we can get some community members and some parents, and not just, of course, just from Brockton, but from across the region. But if you have any suggestions or some additional members to be joining us, this will be posted on the website, so they'll be able to play catch up, so no one really kind of misses anything. But really important that we keep the dialogue active and up to date. And this has been incredible to listen to all the great information that's out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, Gene. It's Rob May calling for Ted. Is he there? Thanks a lot.
Okay, so we're gonna move it on. So if anyone has anything else they would like to say or to add, the time is now. If not, we're gonna be wrapping up the presentation. I'll give it.
How you doing? My name's Amar Reed. How are you?
Not bad, Amar. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm actually happy to hear all the great news going on, as I've been really fighting a lot for pedestrians and bicyclists in Brockton. As I've been on a long campaign about traffic, and I think all this stuff is great information. I've been working a lot with Jimmy Ferrer, so I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this committee and really hear what's going on, the great things that we will bring you know, Old Colony in general, right? You know, this is a long time coming. I've been riding the commuter rail for a long time. So to see those commuter rails, see how far it used to go from back then to now, to bring that all back is amazing. And I think this is definitely good for the youth. And, you know, as young adults, you know, by 2020, 30, you know, obesity is somewhat, it's going to be at its all-time high. We got to get these kids out there and be out there, be safe. So thank you for all the work you guys done.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for participating. But yeah, you're spot on. We're going to be looking at all aspects of walking and biking, health focus in regards to fighting obesity, looking how we can partner with our public transportation authorities, both locally within our region, and then promoting greater pedestrian and bicycle access to help us facilitate outreach and travel. So like working with like the Brockton Area Transit Authority, who's been a great partner in regards to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, working with the T to see how we can increase the ability to bring bikes on board. Especially now we kind of have a great reset with COVID to see how we can maybe work with our MBTA partners to facilitate greater ease of bringing your bike on board, because anyone that's ever traveled on the MBTA, God bless them, with their bike, it can be sometimes a game of Twister to get your bike on. But we're going to be working with them. They actually have a great team. I've spoken with them in the past with our mass bike partner and director, Galen Mook, who he and I have gone up and spoken with the operations team at the MBTA. And when, like, for example, when Pete was saying that the T is a great partner when it comes to bicycle and pedestrians, let me tell you, they are a fabulous partner, and they totally want to see more pedestrians and bicycles on their trains. I mean, they met with Galen and I right away. I mean, it was without hesitation when we emailed them trying to get greater pedestrian bicycle access on the T. When can we talk? How can we do this? So we have a great friend there at the T, and if anyone's on there, on here from the T or has close contact with them, please pass them that note that we value them as a great partner. We look forward to working with them going forward. So I'm going to move us on in the sake of time. So I want to just highlight that this month is Bay State Bike Month. I know it's a very unusual Bay State Bike Month because usually we're having all kinds of pseudo parties and bike to work day events. For the last 7 years now, well, this would have been the 7th year. The Old Colony Planning Council, in partnership with the Planning Department of the City of Brockton, the City of Brockton's Mayor Office, the Brockton Area Transit Authority, and MassDOT, we have promoted Bike to Work Day in the City of Brockton, which has been a great success. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do it this year due to the virus, but does not mean there's not a plethora of bicycle events you could go to, walking events as well. This is just a quick list of those that are going on and upcoming. For example, Walk Boston, which is the walking coalition of our state, is doing their 30th annual virtual celebration and Golden Shoe Award, which focuses on honoring and recognizing those who have been great champions in promoting walking within the Commonwealth. A great planner-ish type of webinars or Zoom meetings is going to be coming, which is buses and bikes and how they can get along. So they're going to be looking at how bikes and buses can be combined to facilitate the travel of both. For those who may have been in up in Boston, you can see, like, for example, on Washington Street in the city, there is a bus/bike lane, and it's fabulous. You got like a good, like, I don't know, what is it, 10 or 12 feet of just an area you can ride, which is fantastic. And then the T-bus drivers are so great because they give you a lot of room and they wave at you when you're departing. So it's a really good thing of mutual respect, and I really enjoy riding that one on the Washington Street. But also for those who have done the MS bike ride in the past, obviously there's going to be there's not going to be one, from what I understand, this year, but they're doing a virtual event, and that's taking place later in the month. And you can find more information all about this at the link below by just going to the baystatebikemonth.org, and you can see a list of the events that are up and coming and get contact information and Zoom meeting information there. So the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee meets quarterly. We found that to work a little bit better. So the next potential one will be in December. Now you're like, ooh, it's kind of cold. People don't bike in December. Oh, yes, we do. We be biking in December. All you gotta do is ask people in my office, does Paul bike in December? You best believe he does. So we'll definitely be talking about bicycle and pedestrian issues in December, which in the Commonwealth and in our region is a whole different set of issues that we experience as cyclists and pedestrians when it comes to winter riding and walking. There's snow on the ground, roadways become tighter, sidewalks become narrower, if not sometimes impassable because of a lack of sidewalk clearance. So we'll talk about a host of issues there in regard to biking or walking in the winter months. I thought I saw the chat there. Let's see. I will bike in Alaska. That's true. I have biked in Alaska. It's beautiful. It is actually gorgeous. With that said, I'd like to thank everyone. If you would like to get further information or reach out and talk about more bike and pedestrian issues, you can contact Jimmy or I at the information there. We love emails and we love to talk bikes and walking, and we'll be more than glad to chat you up. So with that said, I would like to thank everyone for participating, and if there's any other questions, please just ask, and if not, you have a good day. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for attending, everyone.